Salesgravy is now the sponsor of this show. And part of me was actually very surprised by that when he asked for that, because when he hired me full time, he said that the show had to come with me. And I was like, oh, okay. You know what the show is.
Well, I think that's what makes it so charming, actually. Silly, because I don't know, it's not going to be a stuffy show.
Yes, Stu, you mean it's fucking charming. Okay, let's just.
Oh, it's fucking charming. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hey, Warners, welcome to another episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About, the podcast that makes business sexy again. I'm Gina and Rachel, Master Sales Trainer at Salesgravy.
And I am Rachel Pitts. I am a Master Sales Coach at Salesgravy and creator of Your Ultra Fit Lifestyle.
Awesome. Hey, Rachel, how's it going today? Oh my gosh, that's the funniest thing. There's a landline ringing in my studio.
What is that? Okay, so for anybody who does not know what that is, there once upon a time were phones attached to the wall. And it's funny that it rang at your place because I'm currently at an office right now where I've had anxiety that the phone would ring the whole time we've been on this podcast.
I didn't even think about, okay, why do I have a landline? Okay, this is a short tangent at the beginning of this show. Like when you buy cable or internet and stuff, they're like, add a phone line too. I'm like, who uses a landline? But they're like, it doesn't cost any extra. I'm like, fine. It can't hurt to have an emergency landline. That's why the landline was ringing. Well, that's interesting. Because on this episode, we're talking about ways to stand out with a really cool guy that we met at Outbound. And he's pretty well known, actually. Stu Heinecke is our guest on this episode. And he is author of How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, Get the Meeting, and his newest coming out is
How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed.
How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. Oh my gosh. This analogy of the weed, I can't wait to read the book. I can't wait for it to come out. What a cool guy. I'm excited about this episode. What did you think?
He's got a lot of stories. He's a storyteller and he's got some interesting stories. I really did love what he says at the end, which is deal with what is.
Deal with what is, which, you know what? Ironically, I believe is going to be the title of this episode. Deal with what is. I think, yeah, that's what I wrote down. Deal with what is. And that's what this episode is about. And he's going to bring us through the journey of going from cartoonist to sales guy. And he is a Wall Street Journal cartoonist. You've probably seen his work. What an honor and pleasure to have him on this episode. Think you'll get a lot out of this. It's just a new twist on how you can stand out in business and sales. So sit back, Warners, and enjoy this episode with Stu Heinecke. Any questions before we just start rolling?
Well, yeah. Well, okay. So I was just going to ask one, but it's kind of an interview question, really. It's what's the genesis of the women that your mother warned you about? I mean, where did that come from? That's not like, I don't know, sales conversations, or I don't know, a sales corner. Any sort of safe, boring title and concept for a show. But where did that come from?
Well, Gina and I will tell you where the show came from. But first, I'm curious, Stu, how would you define a woman your mother warned you about?
Oh, well, they're less reserved. They're more, I've never even thought, it's just, they're going to be more fun somehow. They might be a little crazy, but they're going to be more fun. Does that make any sense? I think that's kind of it.
Hey, your definition is your definition. That's why we like to ask everybody.
Yeah.
A little crazy, a little fun. And obviously it asks us about profanity, and chances are they swear.
They probably do. They probably have tattoos. I don't know. They got
less reserved than the average woman.
Yeah, less reserved. But look, I don't even know if we're doing the interview yet, but I'm just going to tell you that I sent you the picture of the girl I went to Copenhagen to meet after seeing her in a magazine. So she's posing in a magazine. I guess that's probably one of those women that your mom would say, you never
Yes,
go,
you think?
yeah, you would think, but you would be if you actually accepted that kind of thinking, you'd be totally missing out. So I think that's kind of what this is. That to me, that's what Women Your Mother warned you about. It seems like that's what it is, but I didn't invent it. So
I love it. I love it. That's a great. Everyone's got a slightly different description. It's fun when we have women on the show and we ask them if they are a woman your mother warned you about, and we've had somebody like, "Oh no, not really." We're like, "Well, you must be because you showed up."
Yeah, I mean, what are you doing on the show then?
We'll tell you in the very beginning. And by the way, the show has started. So welcome, Stu.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Welcome, Stu Heinecke, to the Women Your Mother Warned You About. We're excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
We've had in the very beginning of creating the show and the genesis of the show, and I think that was one of your questions that we'll give you an answer to. There were some women that did not want to come on this show.
Really?
Yeah.
Who shall remain nameless?
Who shall remain nameless?
Because now they want to come on the show.
Yeah, they're probably like, how do I get on the show? We're like, sorry, you had your chance.
You turned the table. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm. I think again, this goes hand in hand with the why we did this. I think some women were afraid, and maybe even men, afraid to come on the show because they were afraid of how others would see them. Like, oh, we went on that Women Your Mother Warned You About show. What's that going to do to me? What's that going to do to my brand? Will anybody still want to work with me? You know what? I don't think I'm going to be on the show. And then they came up with, BS excuses of why they couldn't be here. Like, I got to go to my granddaughter's birthday party. I don't know. Yeah. Crazy. That's not a real one, but they just had reasons why they couldn't come on the show.
Well, if you'll remember, I know you remember, of course, but we'll remember together that we were at Outbound, and that's where we met. And so you were the featured lunchtime entertainment, and it was fun. It was really fun to watch you up there, and the conversations you had, they were great. And so when we then met in the hallway, we're all the exhibit hallway, then I couldn't resist coming up because I was just thinking, my wife is probably one of those people that, and then that, your mother would warn you about, but of course, she's one of the most amazing people I've ever met. So I don't know, I just had to come up and congratulate you, but also I just was so curious, like, okay, what's that about? And, I think I probably have a story that you haven't heard before. It's not the usual story, but you don't hear it often, I would say. Yeah. And it was all about being a woman that your mother, exactly the kind of woman your mother would warn you about.
And that's perfect, Stu, because that again, the genesis of the show, and then we really want to focus on you and what you do. The purpose was to attract women and men who wanted to just like let their hair down, be who they are, and be like, oh, this is a difference. I can just show up and be me. And even a lot of the men that have been on the show, I think of Jeff Bajorek a lot, who we love, who is at Outbound. Even he, we saw him become vulnerable with us in ways that I don't even think he expected, because we're like, just show up and be who you are. Stop worrying about what everybody thinks. So I think that there's an attraction, right? That you felt that of like, oh, they're cool. I could go talk to them and tell them anything and they probably won't judge me. And that's exactly what we were trying to create. So, and so that led you to us, and we got to hear a great story. And I know you have other great stories, and we definitely want to get into your very fascinating story of how you met your sweetheart. Before we do that, though, I want to kind of go backwards a little bit and talk about some of your greatness that our learners will really get a lot out of and can benefit from. Specifically, I want to hear more about how to get a meeting with anyone, because I think right now that's I think not just now, but always. And a lot of the teaching I do, people are still struggling with like, how do I get a meeting with nobody's, especially right now when we're recording this summertime. I'm in the middle of writing a summertime slump article about. I'm getting meetings and then they're like being constantly rescheduled, and I'm over it. So can we dive into this? How to get a meeting with anyone?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, without meetings, you can't sell. I mean, if meetings don't happen, there's no sales, right? And then also just, if you think about the big things that have ever happened in your life, the big things that have happened in your life, they happen because we have meetings, because we make the right connections. Certainly that's what sales but that's what life is about. So you got to be able to get meetings. And it turns out that, if you make the whole process fun, I guess that's kind of contagious. And the person on the other end of it goes, yeah, you know what? Actually, what they really think is, you know what? If you're doing this right, if you do it really, really well, and then your outreach campaign does this, it causes people on the other end to say, oh my God, who is this man? I love the way you think. This is incredible. And when you do that, then if that's how you've reached out to someone who can change your scale, then you're going to change your scale. You're going to get meetings that will change everything in your career and in your business and ultimately your life.
What got you into the sales realm?
I've always had, let's say, several parallel tracks in my career. So I'm a cartoonist. I'm one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists now. I didn't start out that way, but I'm a cartoonist and also a marketer, and so a business person. And I knew really early on that I wanted to create my own agency, and then I wanted to work with the big magazine publishers, and I wanted to create direct mail campaigns. Those things that used to bother us, our mailboxes, those mailings that were asking you to subscribe. And the thing is that I knew that I could combine cartooning and marketing really, really effectively. I mean, I knew it would be an effective combination, because I knew that already that cartoons were the best read and remembered parts of magazines and newspapers. And so they were more effective than just about anything you could put on paper anyway. But then you think about the nature of humor. When we find something funny, I know everybody knows this, that we'll laugh, and then before we can even catch our breaths, we're saying, oh my God, but it's true. It is like that. I know someone I've been through something like that. Truth is always revealed in a twist, but it's always revealed in humor. And I guess another way of saying that is a point of agreement is revealed in that humor. So these were just natural tools to use in marketing, but really what we're doing is selling. And here's the other thing. I mean, so all the mailings that I did for all those publishers were selling magazines. I mean, that's what I was doing, but I was doing it at, 1 million people at a time through these mailings. And the thing is, before I even did that, though, I had to sell. The thing is, if you're in business, I'm going to say even further, if you're alive, you have to sell, right? I mean, selling is just we sell all the time, and no matter what is in our titles in our careers, that's all. We're always selling. So certainly, business owners, you better be selling, or you're not going to survive. And then you have to sell, or there's no revenue. And then eventually you have a team that'll help you do that. But if you're not selling, there is no business. And the lead into my book, into how to get a meeting with anyone, the first thing I said was, you might be wondering, what's a cartoonist doing writing a book about sales?
That was going to be my next question, Stu. So that's perfect. No, go ahead and answer it.
Well, it shouldn't be a monologue either, But that's the thing. It's like, what's a cartoonist doing telling us anything about sales or selling? The fact is that I used cartoons to break through I had the most amazing experience when I was starting my business. I wanted to write direct mail campaigns for publishers. So I got 2 assignments, one for Rolling Stone, the other one for Bon Appetit. And both of these mailings beat their controls. And what that means is they're always testing against, in statistics, you're always testing against the constant. So in direct marketing, you're always testing against a control or the constant, the thing that is actually, it's the most effective thing you've ever put out. That's the control. That's always the control. So if you beat in this arena, if you beat their control, then you've actually set a new record for response. And so my first two mailings with these personalized cartoons, with that shtick going on, that beat their control. The two controls I ever went up against, I beat them both. So that was my chance to reach out to all these VPs and directors of circulation and consumer marketing at the big magazine publishers.
Now you're the control.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 We beat
awesome.
so many of them. But so here's the thing: to get through to these people, I mean, like just to establish this business, I had to reach those 24 people, right? VPs and of either consumer marketing or circulation. And they're at, Condé Nast and Time Inc. and the Wall Street Journal, Forbes. And these are not easy people to reach. And so, well, okay, I got to do something. So I put together this I didn't even know what to call it. I called it a contact campaign. So I put together this contact campaign that consisted of an 8x10 print of a cartoon. Each one was about each recipient. That's my thing. So I've been using personalization with cartoons my whole career. So send them an 8x10 print with a note saying, this is the device I just used to beat the controls for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit. And I think we should put these to the test for your titles. And that little campaign was stunning, because it not only did I get through to all of them, right? These were tough people to reach, but I got through to all of them. And then all of them agreed to meet with me. And so it was 100% response rate, 100% meeting rate. All of them became clients. All of them, all of those publishers became clients. And so it was also eventually 100% conversion rate. And this was from a campaign that cost me about $100. It's like, wow, what, to 24 people. And it was worth millions of dollars to me. It launched my business.
Well, what was step 2? I mean, how did you get to the conversion?
Yeah, right. I mean, so I sent the thing, and then I said, "Hey, did you get my piece?" Yeah, I did. That was actually pretty cool. Well, thank you. Well, we should be putting this to the test. When do you have? I mean, when can we do that? When are you testing next? How can I get into your schedule? Or I'm coming to New York. They were all in New York, and so I'm coming to New York this week. Can we set up a time to talk? And I would have 8 meetings a day. I'd spend a week in New York. It was a blast. What a blast that was. So
I think you make up a really good point. You make a really good point, Stu, and that's, these 12 entities that you reached out to, you may not have actually believed that it was all going to close and convert as it did, but you did ask. You asked.
I knew they had to test this. I just actually I knew this. It's weird because I just thought, no, I've already done it for the 2 first magazines. You have to do this. That's kind of how it felt like.
Right.
You've got to try this. You're testing all these other things. You've got to try this. And if you remember back, I don't know, because I'm a little older than you are, like lots older. We're on our women your mother warned you about, so we could just be on. I'm way old.
We look really good for our age, Stu. I'm actually 78.
Oh my gosh. You older than I am?
She's not. She's a big liar. But we're probably older than you think, but we like Botox.
You look so young to me. So, but so the thing is, oh God, I lost my train of thought. I guess maybe that's what we're to talk about.
We do that.
Oh,
you were
God.
in New York, and we took you down a rabbit hole. We're sorry.
Man. Well, anyway, New York was a blast, and I think what I was saying was that I just felt like they had to test this because they were testing all these different things. And now I remember what I was going to say. If you'll remember, a lot of the direct mail pieces that used to show up on our mailboxes were based on teasing you into the envelope, right? So you'd see it like a window envelope with safety paper from a check, and you'd say, "Oh, this is a check," when in fact it's a bill, or it's just a promotion, or it might have. They used to talk about lumpy packages all the time. So maybe there was a pencil in there or some little crappy knickknack, but because it was lumpy, it would get you in. But you get in and it's like, oh, well, this is just a piece of junk.
Nothing pisses me off more than thinking it's a check and having it be advertising.
Yeah,
that just makes me mad.
My wife almost ripped up and threw away a $10,000 refund check from the IRS once, thinking that that's what it was. Yeah, those things were a pain in the butt. They were horrible. And the thing is, it caused, I mean, it trained consumers to, well, I mean, everyone called it junk mail, and it was junk because it was all manipulative. Mine, by comparison, was, here's this, it might be a number 10 envelope, like a standard size business envelope or some other form factor, but here's this cartoon on it. It might have been one of mine, or it might have been, I had a lot of the cartoonists from the New Yorker and the Wall Street Journal and Playboy in my group eventually. I mean, I recruited all my heroes. So you could have Gahan Wilson do a cartoon for you as the marketer, or Leo Cullum, or Bob Mankoff, who was the cartoon editor at the New Yorker. You could have these really famous cartooning styles in these cartoons. So the person getting this on the other end is getting this. They're seeing this cartoon by a cartoonist, like you've seen their work your whole life, but this cartoon's about you. And that would cause people to react to those mailings in ways that never occurred with other kinds of mailings. I mean, like sometimes they would clip the cartoon out of the thing and put it up on the refrigerator, and people would know me from my work because they were saying my dad had, or someone had one of your cartoons clipped out and stuck up on the refrigerator for years. So, I mean, they weren't taking those fake checks and sticking them up on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
So I knew they had to try this because it was a completely different animal.
Do you have a cartoon that's like your most like famous, known, prominent, or cartoon that was in your mind, your most pivotal?
There are a few of them like that. And so one of them I use whenever someone's not calling me back, I send them this cartoon. And I know you've seen it, but I'll just describe it anyway. So it's this guy talking in a payphone at this broken down gas station in the desert somewhere, probably on Route 66. Actually, I did it, so it's on Route 66. So, and he's on the phone, and he's parked, and you look at the gas station, the gas sign is flopped over. That's the one, and the windows are broken, and there's a saguaro cactus there, and this is not a place you want to be hanging out for long, but. So he's on the phone, and so Gina, if you weren't calling me back, I would personalize it with your name. And so he'd be saying, "Hi, Gina, it's me again. Listen, I don't know if you've been checking your voicemail all last week, but I'm still here at the same number waiting for your call." So this poor guy's been waiting for a week at the gas station.
I love this cartoon, and I love the personalization of it.
It's fun. It's powerful. It's really powerful. It's a great marketing device.
Yeah. And I think this is an important point for our listeners, anybody in sales, anybody in business. If you're trying to engage, we talk about this. I'm having some flashbacks to the session I taught this morning at Salesgravy, which is our email prospecting workshop. And along those same lines, right, I'm teaching them that framework of how do we hook them. And one of the, quickest way to hook someone is to use their name and to use that personalization to pull them in. I also took a note when you were talking about the junk mail and getting those checks, that look like fake checks that come in. And the phrase I wrote down was bait and switch. And we see this happen. And it's fresh on my mind because I just got off teaching that class. When people put in the subject lines one thing, and then you open it and that first sentence, and I was a journalism major, so I think you can relate to this a little bit. The first thing they teach you in journalism school is the importance of a headline. Right. And I relate that back to subject lines. Like the headline is what's going to pull the reader in to read the story. And then that first paragraph or your lead paragraph has to pull them in and capture them. But it also has to be congruent with the headline. And so when you don't have that congruency, you totally ruin your reputation with the reader or with that audience because they feel like you just conned them.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, you feel manipulated. It is manipulation, actually. So, and they feel it, and they don't like it. And a cartoon is actually like a headline.
Right.
It is.
And your personalization of it is like, oh, this is just for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that cartoon is saying, hey, actually what it's saying is, Gina, would you call me back for crying out loud?
But with the humor.
Yeah, but with humor, so it's completely disarming. It's wonderful, and so they're all and with the cartoons. There always also has to be a payoff, just like a headline. And so that was I would be saying, well, in that one, I mean, obviously the point is, hey, we haven't been able to connect. Let's connect. That's it. But you gotta follow it up. That's true. Hey, now I want to say something too, though, because I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of cartoons. They're wonderful. They're a great device. They're incredible. We could talk the whole hour about cartoons.
Oh, sure.
I'd be very happy. But in terms of getting meetings, I don't want to give the impression that the only way that you can get meetings is with cartoons.
Oh, no, we're going to get off cartoons because I want to talk about weeds.
Well, there's weeds, but there's also like visual metaphors. Look at this crazy thing.
Ew.
Isn't that a cool thing? Well,
Okay, so we're gonna describe that to those who are not seeing the video. So it's a coffee cup that has it looks like it's been
spilled.
It's a coffee spill. Yeah. So what you're seeing is the actual coffee spill, which is like a plastic thing, and a straw coming out of it.
It's like something you'd see in a joke shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you'd put it on your desk and people would walk in and say, "Oh my God, Rachel, you spilled your coffee," because it looks that real, actually. It's that realistic.
Yeah, it does look good.
This is this is a great visual metaphor for loss or risk mitigation. Once you spill the coffee, you're not going to drink it, I hope. You're women in my mind.
I don't know. I do have a coffee addiction.
Depends on the day.
Yeah,
that's true. But seriously, you're not going to drink that. You're going to pour yourself another cup. You'll have to replace it.
Right.
So what a perfect way to open a conversation. Let's say maybe about insurance or some other risk factor. I don't know, compliance or something else. Or let's say lost sales. This could be all those sales you're not getting and should be.
Yeah.
So that's a visual metaphor that isn't first of all isn't a cartoon. That's good. But that's a great way to open a conversation.
Hey, Gina.
What?
You know what we need right now?
What do we need?
We need to hear from our sponsor, Jeb Blunt at Salesgravy. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hi, this is Jeb Blunt. There's a reason why thousands of sales professionals and top companies across the globe hone their sales skills at Salesgravy University. You see, Salesgravy University is different than most learning platforms. First, we have live courses taught in a virtual classroom by our master trainers that start almost every single day. And our e-learning platform is populated with hundreds of hours of sales training content produced by some of the top sales trainers in the world, including Gina's spontaneous selling course, which is worth checking out. Now, I've got some good news. If you've never taken a course on Salesgravy University, if you're a new user, you can take your very first course for free. That's any course on the platform, absolutely free. Just go to learn.salesgravy.com. That's learn.salesgravy.com, or click the e-learning tab in the top menu at salesgravy.com. Pick out your course, and when you check out, use coupon code FREECOURSE to get that course for free. That is free course to get your very first course for free.
Stu, that actually reminds me of a little tactic I used that happened accidentally, which is something called my cowboy boots. So I've got these very sparkly cowboy boots. Actually, I have two pairs of sparkly cowboy boots. One's more sparkly than the other, and one was very, very expensive. Yeah, naturally anything sparkly. And these boots, I call them the boots that were made for talking. And it was accidental because every time I wear them, people stop me, strangers stop me to talk to me about the boots. Yeah. Where did I get them? Those are cool. One guy's like, I need to know exactly where you got them. I want to buy a pair for my wife. Someone stopped me in airport. Like these boots, I have had more conversations in these boots with strangers than I could have ever imagined. And, for me, the metaphor is about having something that makes you stand out. And as a salesperson, people buy you, and what differentiates you? What's a conversation opener that gets people to want to talk to you? Those boots, I mean, they were super expensive. I don't even want to say how much they were, but they have paid for themselves in conversations.
Yeah. Think about all the other articles of clothing that have it. I mean, what other article of clothing would you even call it?
Well, Rachel, you've worn that thing around your neck that's got the flower on it. That's gotten attention. People have asked you about that, or your hats.
Well, and the thing that I think is a good takeaway for people listening is Stu has this modality that is his cartooning, and that's one thing that makes him unique and memorable, and he's leveraging that so that he stands out. And I know when we had Ash Amberge on our show, she talked about when she was first in sales, she was working for a roofing company, and she took like pieces of the roof and like sent them to people. So like nowadays people, I remember being in one of our Salesgravy courses recently, and the general consensus from this group of learners was our emails just aren't working. Well, no, they're not, because every single one of us, no matter how busy or not busy we are, we're all getting hundreds of emails that are pitching products and services and what have you to us. So email just doesn't stand out. So
but
writing,
as
Gina was just saying, writing the right email subject line to stand out can, but there's also other ways you can try to stand out in that sales, in that prospecting sequence. So part of that sequence could be something original.
I think that's absolutely true. And we might as well just kind of address that, the elephant in the room. Email, does it work or not? And, and how can we make it work, and so on. And the fact is, for one, first of all, we have to acknowledge it's a really crowded channel. Like as you were just describing, it's a really crowded channel. So if you're writing long copy, salesy, pitchy copy, no one's going to read that. So they don't have time. They don't have the interest. You're going to get, you'll be reported as a spammer and, blocked and so on. But, if you're writing something that what I found is two things. One is if you write very short copy, and I'm saying under 12 words, that does get through. I mean, I was interviewing Aaron Ross, who you might have interviewed. I don't know if you should have him on the show if you haven't. And he was telling me that he had reached out to Mark Benioff, and he said, he made sure it was 12 words or less. It was something like, "Hey, Mark, we do this. Is that of interest?" That was it. So there was no, 8-paragraph thing about what they do and how everyone thinks it's so great. And it just was very direct. And he got a response back in 30 seconds from Mark. So I thought, okay, I'm really mischievous. So I'm thinking, okay, that's just too much. I got to try that. So I did the same thing, and he got back to me 30 seconds later. If I had sent anything longer than that, I wouldn't have had it. He doesn't have the time. So I guess one thing is to be respectful of time. I used to put these personalized cartoons in emails. I don't anymore because it's such a crowded channel. I have so much more fun with uncrowded channels. Or at least different modes of communication. But
what would be an uncrowded channel for you, for Stu?
Well, let's say definitely sending something physical. So I'll show you. Sorry to come back to cartoons again. but this is a big board. So this is 18 by 24 inches. I'll have to back up a little bit. It's made of a special kind of foam core, and so there's a cartoon about the recipient on the front. On the back, there's branding, messaging from sender to the recipient explaining who they are, why they want to meet, and next steps. And that goes out in packaging not like this packaging. So this looks like, and so there's crush zones inside, and the air bill goes right on the front. And so what I'm showing is a corrugated packaging that has cartoon art all over it. It looks like it's something arriving from a cartoon art gallery.
It's so
perhaps.
Cool.
It's a really neat thing, and when you get that, it's like, wow, where did this come from? That's amazing. Who sent this? And in fact, I don't know if this works or not, but I've got a video that I should either share with you, and you can insert it into this, or we can do a share screen and I'll show you. But I sent this piece in a box, in a tiny box like this. So there it is. It's beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Sliding lid box with my cartoonist signature etched in the piece by laser, and then inside is this guy. And so that's a multi panel cartoon with cowboys out on the range that's sitting around the campfire at night.
Hey,
You know,
put that
cowboys
back
sitting
up,
around-
Stu. I want to take a picture of that.
Oh yeah, okay. So cowboys sitting around a campfire, you got to listen in, right? And so they're talking about. He's saying, let's see. I'm going to just kind of personalize this to you on the spot. So in this first panel, this one, they're saying, I ever tell you fellas the story of Billy the Kid? Yep, sure did. How about Wild Gina Tamarco? Now, hey, isn't that perfect calling you Wild Gina?
I don't know if people will believe it, but go on.
It was exactly, it should be up on your wall somewhere.
Stu, I would accept a personalized version of this, and I would put it on my wall here for people to see.
It needs to be
I
up
think
there.
I need one, Stu.
Right. So now, and I could be saying, Wild Gina and Rachel, actually, but that's stupid. I don't know. But so then he's saying, you mean the host, the co-host of Women Your Mother warned you about? And then they finally say, at least 100 times before, yep, you can say that again. Like they've always been talking about you.
I love it. I love it. Now I want my own.
I will. Well, I'm going to make up one for each of you.
Oh, that's awesome, Stu.
So I can see a spot. I see a blank spot right over your shoulder, Rachel. So maybe it goes above the door.
This is an office. No, I have lots of space. This is
okay. All right, cool. Well, so here's the thing. I sent this one of these things to Billy Jean. So Billy is he's an Instagram marketing influencer. Pardon me. And so I just wanted to meet him. I wanted to see if we could do something together. So his assistant got a hold of this thing, and she thought to herself, well, this looks really interesting. And so I don't just want to open it. I want to do an unboxing.
Love it.
So she did that. Now, here's the thing for me. I have sent these things out. I've reached presidents and prime ministers and celebrities and just countless CEOs and C-level executives with cartoons. I mean, that's why I wrote the book. That's what got me started. So anyway, the thing is, so I know they have great reaction. I mean, they cause a great reaction, but I'm not there when they arrive. I send them. So how could I possibly be there? She did that for me because she did the unboxing, and she did it, and she read the whole thing. So, oh gosh, Billy, look at this, and she read the whole cartoon to him, and then she flipped it over, and so on the other side is all this. Well, it's the message. Again, who I am, why I want to connect, the next steps, and but she flips it over and she says, look at the message, kind of, and then she says, kind of falling in love with this guy, mad respect. It's like, that's his assistant saying this.
That's awesome.
So that is exactly what I mean by saying when we do something that is that when our outreach causes people to say, I love the way you think. Obviously, that's not a cold call anymore. Right. I mean, they're really excited to meet you, and it creates a different kind of effect than just, I don't know, thinking you're going to stand out in a crowd by standing in a crowd and doing everything that the crowd is doing.
Yeah. And we talk about that too with video prospecting, and even though video has been around forever, nobody really uses it. Right. As much as they could be. And it's, I was trying to think of what our listeners might ask, and they might be like, well, that's great, Stu. I can't draw a cartoon. Right. What are those other things that people who are listening or watching could do? Like, the first thing that comes to mind is video, or like you said, be a little more creative in your emails. And at the end of the day, it really is a blended approach, right? It's not just, I'm going to send an email and get attention. I have to do a couple different things to get attention. One thing I did to try to get attention from a prospect, like I already had like an initial conversation, but I knew I was bidding. There's a Fortune 500 company several years ago, and I was bidding against two other organizations bigger than me, and sales training companies. And in a conversation, he had mentioned liking seafood. And we were joking around about, why do people go to Red Lobster when they come to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, when, they could go get fresh fish. And we were talking about this, like there's a 2-hour wait in the summer at Red Lobster in Myrtle Beach. Makes no sense. Long story short, I sent him a lobstergram. A lobstergram. Lobstergram exists, by the way, everybody. So I sent him a lobstergram, and I had learned about this back in my radio and media buying days because Lobstergram was a client. And literally it shows up in one of those boxes that has the dry ice.
Oh yeah.
So when he opened it, it was like all this smoke came out. Like I had no idea that was going to happen actually. Right. So it was like lobster tails in a bucket with butter and other things. And so this Lobstergram shows up and he calls me and like, he can't even say hello. He's laughing. He's like, Gina, and he's laughing the whole time. He's like, your package just arrived. There's a group of people in my office right now because they thought I received a body part.
Oh, that's funny.
And so they're unboxing the Lobstergram, right? And so it was like, how can I cut through everybody else so that I'm leaving a lasting impression? And that, that requires you to get thoughtful.
You know what that, okay, so, I have another book coming out, the How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed.
Yes, I'm going to talk about that.
The thing is, I realized as I was writing the book, you can negotiate like a weed, if that makes sense. Well, of course it does, because I wrote about it. I know it does. And
tell us more, Stu.
If weeds were going to negotiate, what would they do? What would they be like? And they're aggressive and they spread everywhere. They sprout seeds all over the place. They spread those everywhere, right? And then they're really aggressive and urgent about, germinating, cultivating, just activating those seeds, and they spread like crazy. Well, so we can also do this with spread elements, and you just described a couple of them. That Lobstergram that you sent, I'm sure he didn't keep it to himself, right?
Right.
He had all the people in the office saying, "Wow, look at this! Look what Gina said! Look what this woman said. We were just talking last week about and then she sent this to me, or the other day, and we were just and she sent this to me. This is amazing. I'll bet I'm going to just go out on a limb and say I'll bet you got the account."
Well,
what?
No.
Oh
no. we did not get the account, but here's the positive to it. We did not get the account, and it ended up not being the right fit for us.
Okay.
It was a tobacco company.
I hope you got the lobster back then.
Did I get? But what I got was a long-term, still standing relationship with him.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
That has led to other opportunities.
That's really unsurprising because of the audacity of it and the beauty of it. It's when you do something like that, you really show up. That's how relationships are made.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think we would have gotten to the negotiation table without that Lobstergram. So I think that made a difference. At the end of the day, it ended up not being a good fit for a variety of reasons. And that was okay.
Yeah. And
that was okay. But the relationship still stands and brings other fruits.
There are spread elements that I'm just experimenting with them right now. But one of them that's just really obvious is a well done video in email. And the wonderful thing about Vidyard and BombBomb and so forth is that they give you the opportunity to track these things. So you get to see how many times the video was viewed. I think also who viewed it. So you get to watch the spread happen, and it does get spread. If it's done well, then it does get spread. They pass it along, and that pass along in the account that you're trying to penetrate is really, really important. So spread elements. Anyway, video is a great one, and video and email is unbelievable because you can track it. And then there are also, I'm working on right now on infographics that are also, they're sort of like I interviewed Curtis Brooks, who talked about unsolicited proposals. So in a way, there is an unsolicited proposal element to this, but it's really about the recipient. I'm doing one right now, and it starts at the very top of the infographic is a tear sheet that I put together really carefully. It looks like a tear sheet from the Wall Street Journal, and the main article is about my prospect, my contact, doubling the sales of his company. It's 1 year from now, and so there's a story about him in the Wall Street Journal about him doubling their sales. And then in the column next to it is his CEO. And the CEO, I did some research, and the CEO runs marathons. So he just qualified for the New York City Marathon. And there's a story about that. And I'm sure that this is going to get passed around, especially to the CEO, because they're both in the well. I mean, also with the engraved style portraiture, so all where what I mean, where they're drawn like they're on money, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
all of that stuff, but then there's here's the company in a here's a snapshot of the company. Here's what's been going on. Here's the opportunity we see. Here are some of the things that we could use to make that to make this change of doubling your sales in the next year. And I know that thing will spread all over the company. And so I think we want to be talking about, or we want to be thinking about things that spread as well.
Is this what you're talking about? I know that so your new book is coming out in May 2022, How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed.
Yeah.
So is this what you mean when you're talking about a weed mindset? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, sort of. The thing is, here's the thing. Weeds come in all sizes and shapes. I mean, they're grasses and they're vines and they're trees even. Some of them are trees. So, but they come in all, look, the thing about weeds is it's a plant that's pretty aggressive that we humans have decided is a pest. It's not where, that's it. Although
like salespeople.
Yeah, some of them they're worse. It's like they're from another planet. They're just alien. They're incredible. So, but the thing is, all of them follow the same format for winning in their fields. And what it is that they leverage their really a fierce mindset and unfair advantages that they've cultivated against collective scale. All of them do the same thing. And when they do that, they are voracious. They grow like a weed. That's what they do. So you think, well, a mindset, the weeds and no plants have brains. So how could they have a mindset? And some of it is just evident. It's evident that there is some sort of intelligence. And I think it's probably a group intelligence. So across the species, things are happening. I mean, it evolves across the species, especially if they're annuals. Like the whole population dies out every year. So they evolve really quickly and they meet challenges really quickly. But you can see it. You can just watch weeds grow in your yard. Hopefully you're not just watching because you should do something about it. But you can see what they're doing and you can see that they have a mindset. They're aggressive and resilient. And actually, I think they're optimistic. I would say they're optimistic. So that's the weed mindset. It's pretty crazy.
I love it. Aggressive, voracious, optimistic.
Yeah, they're
and they don't have brains.
Adaptive. Yeah, adaptable. I mean, and they don't have brains.
Well, they're not overthinking.
Yeah.
They're not overthinking their situation. They're just showing up to take over.
Exactly.
I'll take part of it. The optimism part. I know that. So, all right, they have a mindset, but now they have that emotion. What are you smoking? The thing is, this whole idea came about when I was driving down the Santa Monica Freeway in LA, and there are 6 lanes of traffic going one way and 6 lanes coming the other way. And then a 40-foot wide concrete median, really kind of like any freeway in the country now, but it's 12 lanes of freeway and a 40-foot wide median. There's a lot of concrete there, and that's no place for a plant to grow. But there, as I was driving by, crack in the concrete was a dandelion, and it was just kind of bobbing around in the smoggy turbulence, and it had those pretty little yellow flowers out and those really fun seed pods that are going, and blowing the seeds around. So it was sitting there running its process. And you could tell that there was no, like, let's say, nothing, no emotional blockage, nothing like, geez, I really saw myself as being at the beach, not the middle of a freeway. It doesn't matter. It didn't care. It didn't care. It just followed its process, aggressively and urgently. It was just living its process. And so I thought, well, that's pretty amazing. I hope I can live up to that. I mean, wow, what an example. But also, when you think about it, the thing is, we know what process is. We learn it all. We learn process all our lives. Certainly, we learn it on every job we're on. We create it when we're creating businesses. But the thing is, we don't have them. We don't pick them up. They're not innate. they're not programmed into us by and large, but for plants, they are. All of their process, these are, they've been around for tens of millions actually 140 million years or so. And so that process is really well honed, and it's just programmed into their DNA. But and then they just run it. So the thing is, we often know what we need to do, but we don't do it because maybe we're depressed. Like, let's say going out and making sales calls for one, we're depressed or we feel defeated. And so we have these emotions that get in the way, and weeds would tell us, look, because we know what the antidote is to that, right? Isn't it getting out and doing more prospecting?
Just do it.
Do it, because then you'll feel better because you broke through to people because you did something about it. So the weeds would tell us, look, your emotion, we don't have emotions, but we can see that your emotions completely get in your way. So rather than letting your emotions lead your actions, turn it around. Let your actions lead your emotions. And so what is it you would be doing right now if you were if your hair was on fire, you were so excited and optimistic, what would you be doing? And I mean, like, one thing I would answer, one thing I would be doing is working out more. And so I work out. And when I do, wow, the thing is, there's actually something in psychology or psychiatry called behavioral activation. So you can actually act the way you would act if you were not depressed, or let's say if you were much more excited, or if you were much more optimistic, and you become that.
Yeah. I love it. Stu. We could go on forever and ever with you. And unfortunately we have to start wrapping up. So I feel like we're going to have to have, we're going to have another show with you because there's so much more to you. But before we do, a couple things. We've got some signature questions for you that Rachel's going to ask. But before we do that, in a 30-second or 60-second soundbite, okay, try to fast track us on this, because we can't let you go without a really quick version of the story of how you met your wife.
Okay.
Because this is important, as far like this is another amazing sales story, but we don't have a whole lot of time, so just fast track us.
So, I mean, this was the most important meeting I've ever had. And it went like this. I saw my wife's picture in a magazine.
Do you want to say what?
I'm going to just flip all the cards and say she was a Penthouse cover model. And
there we go.
I saw her in a magazine. I wanted to make a film about my fantasy going to Copenhagen or one of the Scandinavian countries anyway. And I just thought, if I was going on that fantasy for real, this is the woman I would bring home. And so I reached out to the magazine. They put me in touch with her photographer. And her photographer said, change your bookings to come to Copenhagen. I have some other models you should meet. But what a great trip this is going to be. This is going to be so cool. So I went to Copenhagen and met her. And, the funny thing is she was engaged at the time to the karate champion of Denmark. So, which, I don't know, just made it a better story. That's all.
And so, long story short, you saw what you wanted, you reached out to it to get that, and you married her.
Yeah.
And you're still married to her.
We'll have our 30th year anniversary this month.
And we have seen pictures, and they are hot.
She was the most beautiful woman.
The 80s hair is all about the 80s hair.
She's just the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. And
I love it because it's a great sales story. It's also a great romantic story of, like, you saw her, you didn't really even know her, you wanted her. And how long have you still been married?
30 years.
30 years. I think that's just such a cool story. And we could not get off of this episode without that story. And so thank you for that. And now Rachel's got a couple signature questions for you before we wrap up.
All right. First question, Stu, is how would you define the word sexy?
Sexy. Oh, man. Smart and free thinking, unencumbered, confident. I'm just describing my wife, actually. She's smart and she's confident. She'll jump out. She jumped out of an airplane with me. I mean, she'll do almost anything.
Love it. Yeah. That's awesome.
That works. I'm sure that sexy is helpful if you are going to be a Penthouse cover model.
Well,
Just saying. That it helps. Best advice you've ever been given?
Well, Okay, so I just wrote the book. I'm not plugging the book, but I just
No,
wrote
no, but plug the book.
But okay.
Plug the book.
So it's called How to Sell. No, so it's called How to Grow Your Business Like a Weed. Now the thing is, weeds don't talk, but I had to divine what the weeds were saying. And one of the things that really stands out is, and it's from that dandelion sitting in the middle of the concrete median, is deal with what is. Isn't that great advice?
Yeah.
Deal with what is. And I think the weeds would tell us that immediately, because our emotions are constantly in our way. We're trying to solve those first before we act. We should just act. Just deal with what is.
Love it.
Indeed. Any advice you wish you had been given?
Deal with what? No. Actually, okay, again, I'm not plugging the book because the book's not even out, but
You are plugging the book, and we invite you and encourage you to plug the book.
Don't apologize for it.
Yes, but the thing is, I wish I had that whole book when I was starting out, because it would have changed everything. As I wrote the book, I'm saying, oh my God, I'm making so many mistakes here, because that's what the weeds, because I'm not doing what the weeds do. And so I'm correcting them now. But I mean, man, yeah, if I knew everything that the weeds have to teach us about mindset, about creating unfair advantages, and about running that against collective scale, I would be much further along.
I love it. So the advice you wish you were given was be a weed.
Essentially, yeah, I guess kind of like that. Yeah, be a weed.
Is that it? Did we get them all?
Mm-hmm.
We got all the questions.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, we're only a minute over.
Yeah. So if people want to connect with you, get your books, have a personalized cartoon made, hint, hint, what would be the best ways to do that, Stu?
Well, book me on your podcast. No.
That's a way.
That is one way. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me, just mention that you saw or heard me on the show. That'd be great. I would love to hear about that. So it's just my name, Stu Heinecke, StuHeinecke. I teach an online course about how to get meetings, or how to get a meeting with anyone. And
love it.
So you might want to go to howtogetameeting.com.
I love it. I think I need to sign up for that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So those are the best ways to do it. And you can find my books anywhere fine books are sold except the airport. I think Jeb's take up all the room here.
Jeb has all of the shelf space
he does.
at all of the airports. Somehow he did that. Stu, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here on The Women Your Mother Warned You About.
What a pleasure to join you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hey, Warners, it's time for us to wrap up this episode. If you enjoyed it, go out and share it. And if you have not left us a review, please do that. And thank you to Salesgravy, the sponsor of this show. You can find out more about Salesgravy at salesgravy.com or salesgravy.university, where both Rachel and I teach courses there. How coincidental. And you can find out more about us at the womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com. Well, not but womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com. And you can Google us. You will find us. We're all over the social interweb stuff. Rachel, Rachel loves it when I do that. Her face, I do it on purpose just to get a reaction. Any final words from you, Rachel?
I think that Gina said it all.
Awesome. All right, we're out of here. Bye, Warners.
This really will get serious soon.
Yeah, it doesn't have to. I don't think anybody wants it to be serious.